1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a minute since we've posted or since we've had any activity on YouTube, but I decided I would make this video because one, we haven't posted, and two, because I just passed my Ccma exam with NHA, so I figured I'd give you guys tips and pointers that I wish I would have had while studying. So yeah, let's get into the video. I forgot how to do this stuff, but you know what, we're gonna relearn everything. So the first thing I want to talk about is the study resources that I use. You don't necessarily have to use these yourself. This is just what I use. So I have my binder from my Ccma class, and that has handouts, homework, vocab words, and things like that. Then I have this study guide exam prep for the year of 2022 because a lot of them are outdated. And then I use 3 books off of Amazon. I only fully got through one, and I just kind of skimmed through the other 2. So I got this one, the 2020 to the 2021 version, because I figured some of that might still be on the test. Then I got the 2022 version through a different author. And then I got the exam prep book, and they're all pretty lengthy, which is why I didn't get through all of them, but it still helped. Okay, so I have 10 tips written down. I don't want to enforce the way that I studied on you. I just want to show you the way I studied, and hopefully it helps you out a little bit if you were looking for a new way to study. So tip number 1 is to learn your medical terms. And I don't just mean prefixes, suffixes, root words. I also mean the medical abbreviations and the full word that goes along with the abbreviation for procedures, because that will be on the exam. Something as simple as urinalysis is abbreviated UA, but on the exam it won't tell you urinalysis, it'll tell you UA. Or another abbreviation acronym that I got was I think it was CBC. That was when I hadn't studied abbreviations or acronyms. I had studied medical terms, prefixes, root words, and things like that, but I didn't study procedures. That's one thing I wish I could go back and study because it'd make understanding the exam a lot easier. Tip number 2, something that I did, was leading up to the exam, I would study around an hour a day, and I think that helped me out because everything was always fresh in my brain. I would go over it, what I studied the day before, the day of, and then I would add a little extra so that I would have that to study the next day, and so on and so forth. Studying an hour a day on top of going to class was very easy and very manageable because I can't sit and study for 4 or 5 hours. I will get bored and start to daydream. So I found that to be helpful. Tip number 3 would be to study your anatomical positions and the anatomical terms. I don't know if that's how you would call it. Anatomical terms for anatomical positions and organs, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm saying that right. What I mean by anatomical positions, it's the supine, prone, Sims, those types of positions. Your anatomical terms would be anything that's like anatomical location of organs, your planes, anatomical planes, which would be the transverse, coronal, and I believe there's 1 more or 2 more. That would help because you need to know the location of the organ on the exam. It kind of gives you context clues. It's a lot easier to answer a question when you have those clues already and you're not sitting there having to think as much and it's just on the top of your head. Tip number 4 is to take your practice exams. Now, I know not everybody has a privilege of going through a program, but most of the time you can find practice exams on Google, and have them printed out. If not, there's always Quizlet, and there's a way to take practice exams without paying on NHA. But for the concept of practice exams, the way I took my practice exams was I took one where I used my notes, and I did this so that I would know and kind of familiarize myself with the test along with the material. Then my second, I timed myself, and I only went into my notebook for the questions that I didn't understand or I needed more clarification on. That's when I'd go into my notebook. Then my third test was timed closed notebook. I would not use my notes whatsoever, and I was timing myself. Then my fifth test, it was closed notebook, timed, and by that time I already knew what I was doing, so it wasn't too hard. I also want to mention that on the practice tests, whatever kind of test you are taking, focus on the options they are giving you. If it's on the test, it's on the test for a reason. So let's just say your options, 3 aren't very feasible for the question answer. They're not the answer to the question. That's fine, but they're on the test for a reason. A question might come up where one of the wrong answers for that question is the right answer for this question, if that makes sense. Tip number 5 would be take your time. You have 3 hours. You have nothing to worry about. I do recommend that you, if you're doing the exam online, you get there early, because the application and the setup time goes over 15 minutes, or at least it did for me. And then on top of that, I had technical difficulties, but I was still able to finish my exam. Tip number 6 is learn your administrative duties as a CMA or a Ccma. Things like insurance abbreviations. Actually, the abbreviations are not on the exam, or at least on my exam, they were not on there. They would give you the full name of the insurance, and you would have to read it and understand that it's an insurance. Things like paperwork, HIPAA, OSHA, those 2 did not come on the test as acronyms. They spelled out the entire title. Tip number 7 would be to go over your study material multiple times. And when I say multiple, I don't mean to exaggerate. 7 times. I don't know why I held up 10 fingers. 7 times. When I was little, when I was going to elementary, middle school, one of my teachers told me, in order for you to remember or to learn something, you have to go over it 7 times. So since then, I have studied and looked over my material 7 times, and I think that that was one of my strongest suits, because it did help me memorize and it did help me learn. I would memorize little things for quizzes for my program, but when it came to learning, I would learn things as a whole. So tip number 8 would be not to memorize for the exam. Now, I memorized for quizzes because my quizzes were only on the topic that I had learned and not an overall topic. But I recommend you do not memorize and you learn it. Memorizing is easier than learning, but learning is more effective for your exam. Tip number 9, if you have to guess on the exam, which don't worry, we all have to take some educational guesses at some points of the exam, because the way they say the questions and the way that they are explaining the questions to you, it's confusing, and so are the answer choices. So sometimes we have to take some educational guesses, and that's okay. So what I recommend you do is only eliminate 2. Like off the top of your head, you can look at the answer choices that they give you and eliminate 2, because 2 will not make sense, or 2 will not have anything to do with the question or what they're asking you. So always eliminate 2. Even if you know the answer, if you get into the habit of doing it, you'll do it without even knowing that you're doing it. And now tip number 10, which is my greatest tip of them all, the one I use the most, and that is be able to teach someone. It's not going to be easy to teach someone something that you don't know, which is why I think that having to teach someone, sorry, that came out so wrong, but having to teach someone is so effective. What I would do is I would teach my dog. My dog obviously doesn't understand it, but I knew that if I could go through a concept without stopping and being like, oh, I don't know that, and just going through the entire concept and explaining it to my dog thoroughly and in detail, I knew that I understood and I learned that concept. I would also do this with my sister, and if she could understand the concept by the end of the lesson, I knew that I had learned it because I was able to teach it to someone. So that's what I mean by being able to teach it to someone, because then you know that you learned it and you're able to teach it. So yeah, those are my 10 tips. I hope you guys got something out of this, big or small. My goal was to help you guys because I really wish that some of the videos on YouTube would have been a little more informational on what the exam was like and things that I had to learn or had to focus on. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys would like me to make more CCMA videos or content in general, just comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. I don't know if it's down there, it's been a while, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you got something out of it. Yeah, I hope you guys ace your exam, and if you guys need any help, I'm always here. But yeah, that's all I have for today.